Uh,
So, good evening, Nikki.
Hello.
Nice to come on to a meeting with you. I've um I've been thinking about what coaching sort of like brings up for people, and obviously the first question that most people ask me is, "What is coaching?"
Mm.
How would you describe it? Say, if you're at a party and someone says, "Oh, you're a life coach," what does that mean? What do you do?
Well, usually when I'm asked that question, I obviously talk about the stuff that I do. But for me, coaching is, well, coaching is just if you've got somebody who has a specific goal, let's say, that they're trying to achieve. It's just trying to give them the tools and the techniques to help them achieve that. It's not like counselling, where counselling looks at past events, how we are what we are now because of things that have happened to us in the past. Coaching is more present and future based. So it's looking at where we are now and where do we want to go. And then it's discussing that with the person, what is it that they're trying to achieve, and then just helping them with some tools, techniques, with some guidance to try and steer them in the direction of where they want to, where they're looking to go to. So that's how I see coaching from my perspective.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the only thing I would really add to that is that I see coaching as something that people would do in between counseling sessions. So say they will
Yeah,
get to grips with the issue, but they could do that with a coach, but it's
yeah,
probably more of a counseling thing. But then for them to then start working through, like counselors will sometimes, psychotherapists will give homework for people to go
yeah.
home, but people sometimes find it difficult to do stuff on their own. Like the whole reason of Focus Mate is it's an app that people can just go on. You can be anywhere in the world. You'll be doing a project, but you could be working along the same lines as we are here. Um, all you do is literally go on to that app and say, "I'm Martin. I'm doing this project," and the other person could say, "Well, I'm writing a prognosis or something like that." But they just work much better when there's somebody else with them. They
Mm.
don't work so well on their own. And but obviously, like you say, people obviously need goals. I think mentoring is definitely a strong part of it. I think people do need to sort of be accountable or be held accountable. I know
Yeah,
that I really thrive under a structure, but I also thrive more when I'm being held accountable or I'm having to post actions to somebody else,
yeah,
because then I know that I've got something. I suppose it goes back to those days where you get rewarded for your, things at school. So you get
mm.
a star or something
But
like that.
dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly. And I do still get a lot out of that. So
Yeah.
I think stuff like that, although it can sound like, back to school, I actually think people still get a lot out of it.
Mm.
And having somebody else to run stuff by as well, run thoughts by, is always something that you know is an extra, I suppose, perk. Is that because you have this great idea in your head, but when you read it out to somebody or you speak it to somebody, that person can reflect who's not emotionally invested in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's always handy as well, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like I can like an item of clothing, and I think it's a fantastic item of clothing, but when I put it on, it doesn't suit me at all.
Yeah,
So, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? So,
it is. Yeah. I mean, for me, life coaching, because I did counseling, I did hypnotherapy. Life coaching for me was kind of like the icing on the cake.
mm,
It was kind of like the last bit of the puzzle, as it were. I kind of understood the stuff that I'd gone through. I'd had the hypnotherapy to help me process it. And for me, the life coaching that I did was just kind of like summed it all up. I had that real understanding of it. So that's how it helped me personally.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about so you're an empowerment coach?
Yeah, I'm an empowerment life coach. So basically, I work with people who feel that they've lost their way, lost themselves along the way. Maybe they feel a bit stuck in life, need a new direction, not quite sure where to go. And I coach the tools and techniques to help them build their confidence and their self-esteem, to overcome anxiety, self-doubt, look at their limiting beliefs. What are the stories that they're telling themselves that are holding them back? And just look at the kind of life that they want to live and how we can then work towards creating that life. Because more often than not, it is the stories that we tell ourselves that are holding us back. We have the power within us to achieve whatever we want. But it is all those limiting beliefs, all that conditioning, all those things that we grew up believing that we're carrying forward into adulthood. And that's then becomes our blocks. So I just work with people deciphering what their blocks are, how we can work around them, how we can change them. I have a coaching program that I've created, which is like a self-empowerment masterclass called the Growth Mindset Sessions. And that's like a 5-week coaching program. So what we do is we look at the psychology of why we think, feel, behave the way that we do. We look at limiting beliefs, where have they come from? Why are they there? How can we change them? And building self-confidence, self-esteem, anxiety, all of that stuff. So it's just like the whole package of how we can then just create the best version of us and our best lives, as well as doing individual coaching sessions if someone has an individual topic that they want to look at. So that's basically what I do. And the tools and the techniques that I coach, everybody can use. They they're a skill set for life to help us navigate life, basically. So that's what I do. And I know that you do something quite different to that, don't you?
Well, pretty much do the same sort of thing because
Okay.
basically, if I'm dealing with, say, an estranged mother son dynamic, and say the mother's come to me, there will be issues about that relationship which
Mm,
they may not be aware of how their behavior or their attitude can be affecting the son, which means that the son is saying, I need some space here. Um, because the mother has not really had some, I suppose, explanation, especially the ones that, they get asked for a no contact boundary, but they don't get told why. It's an
yeah,
absolute killer.
yeah,
So you have to sort of find your own resolution. But when you go in, you find all these beliefs and you find all these barriers, you find all these. So the first thing I do, which is pretty much what you've just described, is that you find out from themselves what they could be doing better for themselves, how they can self-regulate, because no one wants to be estranged from a family member that they've had a loving previous loving relationship with. Obviously, some estranged families need to be estranged because it's abusive and it's harmful, and
yeah,
there's a very necessary reason for estrangement. However, when there's been a case of, like, I've had clients where their son has gone and married, and the wife of their son has started causing a rift between
right.
the mother and the son and
Yeah,
stuff. So that it's not always easy. There's always some sort of like dynamic that you have to sort of uncover. But at the end of the day, I think coaching is how do I manage whatever life is throwing me at the moment? How do I manage myself and not take it out externally on the world, or rely externally on things that cannot solve your problem? So
yeah,
drink,
mm,
drugs, sex, food, work,
yeah,
money, all those things that people can use to cope. Or
yeah, exactly.
and equally, when it's so one of my niches is absent father, because my father unfortunately grew up in a very violent household, and even his mother, although his mother wasn't violent and his dad was, his mother chose his two other brothers as her favorites. So him and his
Mm,
younger brother Steve. Sorry, he was the youngest. Steve was the next youngest. Those two were the sort of like um, the not the black sheep, but they were sort of ostracized from the other two brothers who were the golden children. Do you know what I mean? So they
Hmm.
didn't have any warmth or love from either family either. But I didn't know any of this as a kid. And I was just thinking, why is my dad not showing me any love? You know, I'd go up to him to hug him and he pushed me away. And that was, I found that crippling, you know, I would have to go out to my room. That was my solace, my room. And I had to find an answer, a solution to my problem, which was that I found it difficult handling strong emotions. So what I would do is I'd close them off by making an assumed answer or reason for it. So I chose to tell myself that dad didn't love me. That's why he did this.
Yeah.
Because then I stopped going after the love
Yeah.
and I was therefore I couldn't be hurt again.
Yeah. You let go
But
of the expectation.
yeah.
Mm.
But equally, when you do that, when you shut that down, you shut everything down, don't you?
Yeah.
You close everything off. So when you close off the hurt or the rejection, you also close off all the good that he might show you. So
Yeah.
I realized that by shutting myself down, by saying that dad didn't love me, even though I had no verbal proof of that, I also, that stopped me from seeing the way that he did show his love for me. So
Hmm.
and when I got into later life, I realized, and I had a life coach as well and a therapist, and I realized literally doing actually it was 12-step work in my Alcoholics Anonymous program. I recognized that the pattern was that I told myself that dad didn't love me. My resentment towards my dad grew from that very moment, whereas
Mm.
previously I had no resentment against him. So I grew a resentment, which then made me sort of like ostracize myself from him. We'd be sitting in the living room, for example, and just not saying anything to each other. It was
Mm.
horrendous.
Yeah.
But later on in life, obviously, I then had to look at it, and that's when I saw that actually he did show me love. It's just in ways that I didn't want. I
Yeah.
wanted to be shown in my ways of the love that I wanted to receive. So for example, if my bike broke, he would get up early in the morning or work late at night to fix it behind my back and have it ready fixed for me in the morning. Just stuff like that, you know. So he would show that he cares. He was
Yeah.
thoughtful. And because that's things that he could show, that was a way that he could show his love. So it's stuff like that, really, isn't it? That you have
What
to
you,
get down to the
yeah.
nitty gritty. And once you set yourself free from the barriers that you've put up around yourself, that's when you start wanting to then engage in that part of me that was ambitious. And I
Mm.
suppose that is really where the coach comes in then, really, isn't it? It's like, okay, so what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Now you've been freed from this burden of
Yeah.
anger or resentment or whatever. What do you want to do? And that's what you're really talking about. So for example, if we've just gone through that procedure where I've just got that big reveal that actually I was the one who cut off love from my dad. Um, and now I'm feeling like, wow, I can now start taking, you know, focus. I can focus on stuff in my life that I haven't really focused on because I've just been consumed by all of
Mm.
this stuff. So what would you do for me now? So say like if I came to you and say, right, I'm ready, but I don't know who I am or what I want to be or where I want to go. Well, is there anything that you'd be able to sort of
Um, what I do as part of the growth mindset session process is once we've dealt with the limiting beliefs, where the conditionings come from and all that kind of stuff, I then work as to who are we? Because I know myself when my counselor said to me once, well, who are you? You know, your first thing is go, well, I'm Nikki, I'm an accountant, I do. And no, 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 who are you? I don't know. And I remember being so stuck, you know, who are you? Who do you want? Well, I don't know. Because for years, like you said, you have this kind of like beliefs in your head or this conditioning that you're going through where you are a somebody, but it's not who you are inside. It's just who you've grown to be, either to people please, either because it's an expectation that's been put upon you. So it's just about then deciding, okay, what I ask my clients to do is I say to them, write down the characteristics of the person you want to be. That could be characteristics that you feel you already have, kindness, honesty. It might be things that you feel you want that you don't have, confidence, to be emotionally intelligent and all that kind of stuff. So I ask them to make that list. And then what I do is I say, right, read the list out to yourself. When you're reading the list, if any of those words you get that little voice in your head which questions it. So say for example, if they read I want to be confident and that voice goes, are you sure? Confident? Hmm. That's when we look, that's where there's a limiting belief. So we work through that. They take that list and we're using that throughout the entire process. So we go from that, who do you want to be? The limiting beliefs from that, let's work through those. To at the end, it's like, okay, so what's the life that you want to have? Do you want to have a life where you have freedom in your job, where you can travel and work? What is it that you want? Not, don't think about the possibilities of how it's going to happen. Don't think about that. Just think about what it is that you want. And then that's how we try to then work through it. So it's then just then going from that, having that template, because it's like a lot of people kind of you get stuck in your head. It's like my daughter earlier, she is thinking of changing her job, but she doesn't quite know what she wants to do. She's got all these exams, she's qualified as a financial advisor. Does she stay in the financial advising industry? And she's just like keeps going over the same thing all the time. Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do that? And I said to her, just stop for a minute. Instead of thinking about, are you going to be an FA? Are you going to be whatever? What do you actually want to do? What do you want from your job? Do you want a job where you've got freedom to travel? Do you want a job where you work from home? I said, think about that. Write that all down. I said, and then put that into ChatGPT. I know some people like to use it, some people don't. I think it's good if you don't abuse it, like with most things. I said, put that into ChatGPT. Say, I would like a job based on this criteria. I said, and see what it comes up with. I said, because it might come up with a job that you haven't even thought about because you're stuck in this loop of, oh, I could do this, I could do that. I've got these qualifications, so therefore, I said, but there could be loads of other jobs out there that you haven't considered because your mind is just trapped. And she goes, yeah, but no, 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 just do it. Just go off and do it. I said, because what have you got to lose? The 5 minutes it takes you to write the question out. I said, but it could actually help you. I said, it might not necessarily give you the answers that you want, but it just might help you go off into a different direction. Look at something that you hadn't considered. And this is what I mean, I do this for myself as well as advising my clients, is the trouble is that we're so much in our heads all the time. And more often than not, what we actually want, the things that we actually feel we want in life, we have the answers inside, but we're just not tuned in to them because we're so stuck in our head. You know, our intuition will guide us. That's our inner sat nav. But it's just trying to quieten the thoughts and then just listen to our body. What is it our body wants? So it is, I say, back brain dumping. You know, write down, get a piece of paper, or if you don't like writing, do a voice note. Literally just write whatever comes to your head. Say whatever comes to your head. Have a conversation, record it on your phone as if you're talking to somebody about you, your life, what you want. Because sometimes just by doing that, we're not stuck in the thought process. We're just literally talking or writing, and which whatever comes out, comes out. And then sometimes even by doing that, you suddenly have that, ah, never thought about that before. So yeah, so I think the answers to what we want, to the life we want, who we are, I think they're all inside us. I mean, that's what I believe for spiritually anyway. It's just tuning into that intuition that we have, that inner sat nav that we've got, quietening the thoughts, quietening our mind and just listening to our body more. And I think that if once we can do that, that will help us, that will guide us through life. That's what I believe anyway.
Great stuff.
But the trouble is that it's also that a lot of people may think that, I mean, I myself did. You think, okay, this is who I am. I am this, I am this. I grew up believing I was shy. From when I was little, I was labeled as shy. So I grew up with that belief. I'm a shy person. So I'm not confident, I'm not this, I'm not that. And you think, well, that's who I am, and that's who I'm stuck as. So therefore, you then act accordingly to those labels. Well, I can't do that. Well, that's because I'm shy. Well, I can't do that because I don't have confidence. It's understanding that it is just that, it's just labels. It's understanding that we can just rip all those labels off and be whoever we want to be underneath, you know? And because when I think back to when I was little, like before I was like five and that, I remember doing things which would be considered confident. I remember doing stuff that, would I be doing that if I mean, like my cousin's birthday party, I got up and sang in front of everybody. Well, would I do that if I was shy? You know, I don't know if I was any good, mind you, but I might have cleared the room. But it's the fact that I had the confidence to do that. Well, if I was so shy, that's not really the characteristics of a shy person. It's just the fact that I was given that label, I believed it, and therefore I carried it through into adulthood. So it's understanding that underneath all of that conditioning, like we've said, all underneath all of that stuff that we've been told, we can be whoever we want to be. It's just tapping into that, realizing that and tapping into it.
Yeah, and those beliefs, we have no idea sometimes that they're even there.
No, exactly. Exactly.
So, people saying, "Oh, I'll try and do this," and then I get to a stage of it and then I give up and I don't know why
Mm.
because I'm really enthused at the beginning, but then I lose focus and then I can't get back into it again. And I do this over and over again. I'm a great starter, but a poor finisher. And you just think, yeah, well, you're right. There's something there that's not right.
Yeah.
Because if you're enthused, if you're excited about something, it makes sense that you would want to carry on. So what is it? And that's what I
Fear,
love about it.
I always
Yeah.
think there's something like that. It's fear of failure, possibly.
Yeah. But fear of success. I
Yeah,
had
or
a
fear
fear
of
of
success.
success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
how do
there's
you
all
cope with all
sorts
of
of
it?
stuff. And
Yeah.
I think, my big one was I don't deserve. But
Mm.
even then, even when I've sort of like come to terms with that and I'd sort of made my peace with that, underneath that, there was another one, which was if I'm successful, if I become wealthy, I'm cheating. And and I really had to sort of sit there and think, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And I think I'm quite a literal person. And my father would say to me things like, "Oh, the reason he's rich is because he doesn't pay tax. They've got really good accountants, blah blah blah. They don't pay tax. That's why they've got more money than us." And I went to myself, "Oh, well, to be wealthy, you have to cheat."
Yeah.
And I just linked that up. But because I'm a kid, right? So I just think, oh, well, I better not be. And, that's basically been with me all the way. And you
It's
just
something.
think there's a
Yeah,
child who's made
exactly.
an assumption, an innocent sort of, oh, I'm going to take that as, a lesson.
Yeah.
And I've been playing it out in my adulthood. So it's crazy, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the thing is, up till about the age of seven, our brain's in a brainwave state known as theta, which is quite a sponge-like state. It's a state that we're in during hypnosis and meditation. So we're absorbing everything around us, and that's where it's stored in our subconscious. But also, as a child, we don't know what the world's about.
Mhm.
We're still learning. So when we hear these things, we take them as truth. We don't know any different.
Yeah,
And this is what we're then carrying around with us. And, it is just stored in our subconscious. We're not aware it's there, but it's there. And yeah, like you said, sometimes these things come up and you're like, well, where's that come from? And it's just trying to kind of work it back.
yeah.
Learn behavior. We copy what our parents do, who then copied what their parents do, and so on. So, because no child is born with a manual saying this is how you bring up a child. You're literally just mirroring whatever, how your parents brought you up. So it's that learned behavior as well. So there's
Yeah.
all these different kind of aspects to it. And no one ever tells us in school. We learn about chemical symbols for things that we're never going to need ever again in the future, but no one ever actually tells us about how to manage our emotions or how to deal with triggers and things that would actually be quite useful in everyday life. And that's the problem. We come into adulthood and we deal with all these things, other people who've had obviously different experiences to us. Therefore, they have different views to us. It's understanding that, because that's another thing as well. It's understanding that everybody's been brought up differently.
Mm.
So they don't necessarily behave in the same way as we do. Sometimes we might look at someone's behavior and say, well, if that was me, I would do this. Yeah, fair enough. But that person hasn't been brought up the same way as you. There was a guy I follow on Instagram called Sacred Thomas. He was interviewing this couple the other day, and the woman was Latin American, and she said when she was little, she helped her father around. He had a shop. She helped her father in the shop and around her mother around the house. And it was just expected that you helped because, money was tight. You just did jobs. You just did that. Never got a thank you. You just did it. So of course now she's grown up, married. Her husband's doing chores and that around the house. She doesn't say thank you to him. He's like, well, does she not appreciate what I do? So he felt quite resentful for that. And it wasn't until they sat down with Sacred Thomas, this guy I follow, and he said, and she then said, well, actually, when I was brought up, it was just an expectation. I didn't know that you wanted me to say thank you because I'm not used to that. And when she understood that he just needed that little kind of appreciation, a little thank you for anything that he did, and when he understood that it wasn't her norm, it wasn't anything that she was used to, then there was that understanding. But it is getting to that point, isn't it, where
Yeah.
you can have those conversations with people and have that understanding. And more often than not, we don't. We just assume that other people are going to do things the way that we probably would do them and don't see the fact that they've been brought up differently, different set of behaviors, different things they've experienced, and that can cause the conflict and resentment,
Yeah. Yeah.
make things quite difficult.
Well, I think we've just done a great 33-minute
Is that
we're
33?
basically, yeah, about what coaching's about. So I think probably we'll end this session here. And yeah, if anybody watches this, we're obviously going to have our links in the comments below. Uh, Obviously, Nicki is an empowerment coach. You will have links to her website, contact details. If there's anything that resonates with anyone, please comment and just let us know your thoughts. Obviously, there's a vast range of areas of expertise within the coaching fields. We specialize in our areas, but there's coaches for all sorts of things. But if you want more information, don't hesitate to contact us. Thanks,
Yeah,
Nicki,
definitely. Thank you.
and we'll see you again next week.
Cool.